I'm Vivian Harrison, 37 years old. 20 years ago, my parents labeled me a disgrace and tossed me out like garbage when I was 17 and pregnant. Today, they stood in Springfield Memorial Hospital's marble lobby, demanding to see their grandson, the chief of cardiac surgery they'd spotted on the news. My mother gripped her Hermes Birkin like a shield, while my father checked his Patek Philippe, both dressed to impress the son of the daughter they'd disowned. They didn't know about the will from the woman who saved me when they wouldn't. If you are watching this, please like and subscribe. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and the time there. Here's how karma finally caught up. It was October 2004. I stood in my parents' lavish living room, with its Italian marble and chandelier worth more than most cars, clutching a positive pregnancy test. My hand shook. "You're lying," my mother snapped, her voice cold as ice. "My daughter wouldn't be so ordinary." 2 more tests proved her wrong. My father didn't raise his voice, too dignified for that. He calmly fetched my suitcase, meant for college tours, and placed it by the door. 10 minutes, he said, adjusting his Yale ring. "Take what fits. Leave your keys." "Dad, please. You're no longer our daughter." He turned our family portrait face down, all matching white shirts and forced smiles. "Our daughter wouldn't ruin our reputation with some boy." My mother stood by the grandfather clock, inspecting her nails. "Don't call. Don't return. We'll say you're studying abroad." Owen, my forever boyfriend, was Stanford bound. His parents had lawyers. His future trumped mine and our babies. He blocked my number the day I told him. 10 minutes. That's all I got to pack 17 years of my life. I grabbed clothes, my grandmother's necklace they overlooked, and $227 from my jewelry box. The door locked behind me, final as a gavel. I slept in Riverside Park that night, under the gazebo where Owen first kissed me. 3 nights later, a gentle shake woke me. Not a cop or creep, but a woman in her 70s, her cashmere coat radiating warmth and worry. "Child, you'll freeze out here." Elena Rossi walked her old poodle at dawn, a habit since her husband's death. She saw me on that bench, suitcase for a pillow, and something in her stirred, maybe healed. "I'm okay," I lied, teeth chattering. "You're not." She saw my face, my barely there belly. She knew. When I broke down, sobbing openly, she sat on that cold bench and held me like I was hers. "Come," she said. "Pierre and I need breakfast company." Her car smelled of lavender and leather. The heated seats were bliss. She drove to her West Side mansion, sprawling with 8 bedrooms for her and her poodle. "I lost my daughter," she said, leading me inside. "Car accident 5 years ago." She was pregnant. The room she gave me was ready, not for me but for someone. A Pottery Barn crib stood in the corner, maternity clothes hung with tags. "This is yours," she said. "No strings. Everyone deserves a fresh start." "Why?" I whispered. She touched a photo of a woman with her eyes and smile. "Because Sophia would have wanted this." That night, I slept in a real bed, Pierre curled at my feet. Elena didn't just offer shelter, she gave me hope. While my parents told their fancy friends I was in Switzerland, I found peace in a starry nursery. Sigurd was born in a February blizzard, loud and perfect. Elena held my hand through 18 grueling hours, whispering courage when I had none. She cut the cord at my request, holding him right after me. "He's brilliant," she said, gazing at my newborn. "It's in his eyes." She was right. Sigurd walked at 9 months, read at 3, and soared into gifted programs by kindergarten. While I studied for my GED and took online college courses, he devoured knowledge like other kids watch TV. Elena owned 3 restaurants, Rossi's Downtown, Bistro on 5th, and the cafe by the university. She started me as a hostess, then taught me the ropes, inventory, schedules, profits. "You're not just working," she said. "You're building an empire." 7. Sigurd operated on his teddy bear, using sutures from YouTube tutorials. By 10, he tackled my anatomy textbooks. 16, Harvard Medical School welcomed him early. That year, Lance Mitchell walked into Rossi's to update Elena's will. She revised it yearly since taking us in. Tall, steady, with kind eyes and awful jokes, he sparked my first real laugh in years. "Your son's incredible," he said over coffee that became dinner. His grandmother made him that way. "I meant you." He smiled. But Elena mentioned her will, something about guarding the family you choose. Elena was always steps ahead. Everything shifted when the Springfield Gazette splashed, 20-year-old surgeon becomes youngest department chief in state history. Seagard's photo dominated the page, my son in scrubs transforming the cardiac wing. His full name stood out, Dr. Seagard Harrison, MD, PhD. My maiden name, the one my parents thought they'd erased. The story exploded online. Prodigy doctor saves 3 lives. Gen Z surgeon redefines heart surgery. The real Doogie Howser. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I nearly ignored the voicemail. "Vivian," my mother's voice cut through, silent for 20 years. "We need to talk about our grandson." Our grandson? Not my son? Not Seagard? Like he was a lost trinket they suddenly wanted back. Emails followed, sent to my restaurant's public address. Cold and formal. "Dear Vivian, we hope you're well. We've learned of Seagard's achievements. As his grandparents, it's time to reconnect." Signed from Harrison Industries, the company they'd chosen over me. Lance found me crying in my office, not from pain but fury. "They want him now, he's a star," I said. 20 years of silence, and now they claim him. "What's your plan?" he asked. I wanted them gone. "Make them vanish again," I told Lance. He held me tight. "We will. Elena's papers have a plan for this." That night, Seagard saved 2 lives in a 16-hour shift. He didn't know his grandparents existed, let alone that they were scheming like vultures eyeing a prize. They started sneaky. A fake name reservation at Rossi's, my section. I spotted my mother's emerald ring first. Her face had aged hard, Botox losing to bitterness. "Good evening, I'm Vivian." "We know you," my father cut in, his menu hitting the table like a gavel. "We're here about Seagard." "Get out," I said. They stayed. Then gifts hit the hospital. A Rolex for Seagard, a Montblanc pen, a rare Grey's Anatomy. Each card read, "Your loving grandparents." Seagard came home puzzled. "Mom, someone's sending me expensive stuff. Is this trouble?" "Send it all back," I said. Lance caught their next move, a letter demanding grandparent visitation. He laughed reading it. "They claim family bonds," he said, holding a photocopy from 20 years ago. "This says they disowned you and your kids, Vivian." They didn't stop. They hired a PI to track Seagard. They schmoozed the hospital board, calling themselves Dr. Harrison's grandparents 4 fundraiser invites. Then my mother cornered Seagard at a coffee shop. "You look like your grandfather," she said, blocking his way. "Sorry, who are you?" "Your grandmother, sweetheart. Your mom's kept us away." Seagard called me instantly. "Mom, some lady says she's my grandma." "Call security." "Always," I said. 2 a.m. Owen called. "Viv, it's me." "Don't hang up." "What do you want?" "Seagard's amazing," he said, claiming our son now that he was famous. 17, he'd left me alone. Now he wanted credit. "He doesn't know you," I said. "Keep it that way." "It's not fair." I was 18. "My parents." "What?" "Disowned you? Left you pregnant in a park?" Silence. "I'm broke divorced," he whined. "He's my blood." "Blood? You blocked me when I needed you." "Your parents hired me," he admitted. "They'll pay me to sway you." I hung up, then called Lance. "They're plotting together, my parents and Owen." "Good," he said. "That leaves evidence." Send me everything. Elena planned for this. Owen's email came next, preaching father's rights, CCing my parents. His signature? Consultant, Harrison Industries, Family Relations. They'd paid him to manipulate me. Elena was right. Family's not blood, it's choice. Some choices can't be undone. You've faced family who only want you when you're winning, like this, to support others setting boundaries. Subscribe and hit the bell. The truth's about to hit hard. Where are you watching from and what's the time? I want to know if this reaches those who get that DNA isn't loyalty. Here's what happened when my parents went public. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Seagard was deep in pediatric heart surgery when my parents stormed Springfield Memorial's VIP lobby. "We're here for our grandson, Dr. Harrison," my mother declared loudly. "We're the Harrisons of Harrison Industries." The receptionist called security, not Seagard. My parents were ready. "This is absurd," my father roared, his voice bouncing off marble. "We fund this hospital. Our grandson's chief of surgery. We demand to see him." People stared. Doctors whispered. Someone recorded. My mother pulled out a monogrammed handkerchief, playing the victim. 20 years they've kept him from us," she cried. "We just want our grandchild." Security arrived as I did, Lance by my side. "Dr. Harrison's in surgery," they said. "We'll wait," my father said, sitting like he owned the place, thanks to his company's plaques on the walls. The security chief looked at me. "Mrs. Mitchell, what do you want done?" My mother's fake tears vanished. "Mitchell? You remarried? You gave our grandson another name?" "He never had yours," I said softly. "You signed him away." Crowd murmured. My father's face turned purple. "How dare you?" The OR doors opened. Seagard stepped out in scrubs, fresh from saving a baby. He saw the chaos, security, phones, 2 fancy strangers, then looked at me. "Are these the stalkers?" "Yes," I said. "Get them out," he said, not sparing them a glance. My parents didn't budge. Instead, they called Channel 7 from the hospital parking lot. Within an hour, news vans swarmed the entrance. My mother, now in a St. John suit she'd packed for a performance, stood with my father, the grieving grandfather, in his Harvard tie. "We're heartbroken," my mother told reporter Jennifer Chen, dabbing her eyes with that monogrammed handkerchief, careful not to smudge her makeup. 20 years ago, we misjudged our daughter's pregnancy. We've tried to reconnect, but she's blocking us from our only grandchild." "Dr. Harrison's a pioneer," the reporter said. "You must be proud." "Immensely," my father lied. He'd never seen Seagard save a life or perfect a surgery. "Excellence runs in our blood." "Their blood? The blood they rejected when I carried it?" "What would you say to Vivian?" Jennifer asked. My mother faced the camera. "Vivian, sweetheart, we forgive you. Let's be a family again. Don't punish Seagard for our mistakes." "Forgive me?" The nerve. By 7 o'clock, their 6 o'clock segment had 50,000 views on their curated Facebook page. Comments flooded in. "Family is everything. Let them see him. Why so harsh, Vivian?" Lance closed his laptop. "They messed up big time." "By going public?" "No, by saying they forgive you. That admits guilt. We've got the proof." Next morning, the hospital's Dr. Morrison called me for a chat. Fidgeting with his Mont Blanc pen, he said, "Vivian, this is tricky. The Harrisons donated $12 million. The board's worried." "About what?" "Optics. Maybe one meeting could settle this. Would you meet people who threw you out like trash?" He squirmed. "It's not my call, but Seagard's role." "Are you threatening his job?" "No, just exploring options." Rossi's customers got nosy. "Family's messy," one said over wine. "But forgiveness is holy, right?" My staff muttered too. 20 years is too long for a grudge. As if disownment was a missed birthday. Seagard came home drained, eyes shadowed. Mom, reporters delayed 3 surgeries today. I'll fix this, baby. It's not your fault. He sank onto the couch. Maybe we meet them once. No. They legally erased you. He paused. Show me the papers. Lance was ready, pulling out the folder. This is what they signed when they kicked your mom out. Seagard read calmly, his surgeon's hands steady. October 15, 2004. Robert and Margaret Harrison relinquish all rights to Vivian and any children, born or unborn. His knuckles whitened. They signed this while you were pregnant? Yes. No financial or emotional obligations. They wrote that. Their lawyer did. They signed. He set the paper down like it was fragile. Tell me everything, Mom. So I told him, the 10 minutes, the suitcase, the park, Owen's betrayal, all I'd shielded him from for 20 years with Lance holding my hand. Owen Blake's my father? Yes, the bankrupt tech guy. You knew. He showed me Owen's LinkedIn. He's been stalking my profile for months. My brilliant boy. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't either. I waited for you. He studied the papers. So Elena was your real family. She left you something, Lance said. Her will protects you from them. How much? 15 million plus the restaurants. Seagard laughed. They're chasing money they can't touch? They don't know yet, Lance said. But they will. We met at Bernardino's, Springfield's snobbiest restaurant, all white tablecloths and judgy waiters. Thanks for coming, my mother said, like she'd already won. My father slid a leather folder over before water arrived. No small talk. It held a contract, Harrison Industries seal and all. 5 million for Seagard now, 5 more when he joins the board. Just do a public reunion photo. You're buying us? We're securing our legacy, my mother said, fixing her pearls. Seagard's a Harrison. He deserves our name. The name you stole from me? They're offering to give it back, my mother said. Our IPO launches soon. Harrison Industries, 3 generations strong, wows focus groups. Focus groups? They tested our reunion like a product. And Owen? I pressed. My father's jaw clenched. Blake's a separate issue. Is he? He says you're paying him to meddle. My mother's facade cracked briefly. That's a mistake. Lance spoke up. Is it? We've got emails about a finder's fee. You spied on us? My father stood. That's illegal. No, Owen CC'd me, I said. He's not the sharpest. They shared that look, the one from 20 years ago when they erased me. The deal stands, my father said, tossing $300 on the table. Not for long. My mother paused at the door. Seagard deserves his real family. He has one, I said. That's why you're not it. That night, Lance spread documents across our table like a detective. Look at this, Vivian. Emails dated 3 months before Seagard's fame. From my father to Owen, you'll get 10% of assets from Vivian's reconciliation. Your job, connect with Sage, push her to comply. They called my son assets? I gasped. Read on. Owen's reply turned my stomach. Vivian's emotional. I'll play the father-son card. She'll fold. Coordinate pressure, you as grandparents, me as dad. $500K up front works. He's selling Seagard, I whispered. Was, Lance said. This proves fraud and harassment. He showed Owen's LinkedIn. 3 days ago, he messaged Seagard. Son, your mom's turned you against me, but I'm your dad. Your grandparents agree. We could build a legacy. Seagard reported him for harassment. LinkedIn banned him. Also, Lance grinned, I sent Owen's bankruptcy to their board. They don't like tax-dodging failures. They're still paying him. Not anymore. The board cut his contract yesterday. Lance opened Elena's safe with Seagard's birthday, July 23, 2005. She updated her will yearly, he said, but this part stayed. Page 7, paragraph 4. Any family who abandoned Vivian or Seagard can't touch my estate. She saw this coming, Lance said, playing Elena's video. Her voice, strong despite cancer, filled the room. Robert and Margaret Harrison, I know you. I investigated you when I met Vivian. The 10 minutes, the suitcase, the portrait, your ghosts locked out by your own signatures. My throat caught. She guarded us even in death. Vivian, Elena said on screen, they'll tempt you with cash. Don't fall for it. The $15 million restaurant's house, it's yours, safe in trust. Be free. Recorded the day before she died. Here's the kicker, Lance said, showing the original abandonment papers. Their signatures glared. They didn't just kick you out, they legally cut all ties, including to your kids. He pointed to Clause 6. Relinquishment extends forever to any offspring. They can't claim Seagard, Lance said. They erased him legally. But they're on TV claiming they lied or didn't read. This is ironclad. I remembered my father's law degree, my mother's contract obsession. They knew. If they keep harassing, Lance said, we can file restraining orders, maybe jail time. They'd never risk their image. So we give them one shot to back off. If not, we expose them at the gala. The gala, I agreed. 500 guests, cameras, their precious reputation, shattered by their own signatures. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Elena planned for everything. She loved you, Lance said. This was her forever gift. The Springfield Memorial Gala was 3 days away. Seagard's keynote would cover family and healing. Invite them all, I said, holding the pearl invitation. My parents, Owen, everyone. Lance raised an eyebrow. You sure? Elena armed us for this, I said. Let's use her weapons. I handwrote each invitation. Dear Mother and Father, join us at the Springfield Memorial Gala for your share of Elena Rossi's estate. Documents provided. Vivian. Dear Owen, attend to clarify Seagard's patrimony and your parental status. Vivian Harrison Mitchell. They'll think they've won, Lance said, sealing the envelopes. Let them. Seagard rehearsed his speech again. Mention Grandma Elena, not them? Yes, I said. Talk about the grandmother who loved you. When they try to take credit, Lance will show the papers. We gave them table 1, front and center. No escaping the spotlight. The hospital board and Harrison Industries investors will be there, Lance said. All their VIPs. Perfect. Called the foundation coordinator. We're launching the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers. $5 million to start, 10 medical scholarships. 20 years of hurt became purpose. What if they don't show? Seagard asked. They will. Their egos won't resist. An hour later, Lance checked RSVPs. All 3 confirmed instantly. They think they've won, he said. The best victories feel certain before the fall. If you face those who failed you, comment strength below. I read every comment, touched by this community's support. Subscribe and hit the bell to see past signatures ruin lying futures. The gala's here, cameras ready to catch my parents learning some choices are final. The Springfield Memorial Ballroom sparkled with wealth and hope. Chandeliers glowed, orchids adorned tables, and my parents sat at table 1, acting royal. My mother wore vintage Chanel, her victory suit. My father checked his Patek Philippe, plotting their move. Owen fidgeted beside them, his rented tux ill-fitting. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC said, welcome Dr. Seagard Harrison. My son took the podium in scrubs, his earned uniform, not a tux. Crowd whispered, my parents' smiles faded. I'm here to talk family, Sigurd said. Not blood, but those who choose you when you're down. My mother preened, thinking he meant her. 20 years ago, a pregnant 17-year-old was kicked out. She slept in parks, ate from vending machines with only her unborn child. The room hushed. My father's hand froze on his glass. Elena Rossi found her, Sigurd said. A widow with no duty to care, yet she knew family's true meaning. She became my grandmother, giving my mom shelter, dignity, purpose. Giving me life. Elena's radiant photo filled the 20-foot screen. All I am, Sigurd said. I owe my mom, Vivian Harrison Mitchell, who gave everything, and Elena Rossi, who showed love as showing up. My parents' faces soured. Tonight, we launched the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers, Sigurd announced to 500 silent guests. $5 million for housing, childcare, education, hope for abandoned moms. Elena's video played. My dear ones, her voice boomed. If you're watching Sigurd's changing lives, as I knew he would, my mother tried to stand. My father pulled her back. Family isn't DNA or inheritance, Elena said. It's presence. Where were the Harrisons when Vivian needed them? When Sigurd walked, talked, operated? Cameras locked on table 1. I leave everything to my true family, Elena said. Vivian, my chosen daughter, Sigurd, my loved grandson. To their abandoners, I leave truth. Sigurd returned. Thanks to my real family, Mom and Lance, my true father. My mother leapt up. Where's your blood, your grandparents? The room stared. No, Sigurd said calmly. You're DNA strangers. Big difference. How dare you, my father roared. Mr. Mitchell, Sigurd said. The documents, please. Lance walked to the podium, folder in hand, justice in his steps. This is outrageous. My father stormed forward, face purple. We're his grandparents. Let them come, Lance said, stopping security. My mother snatched a mic. He's our grandson. They've turned him against us. One mistake 20 years ago. One mistake. I stood, voice clear. 10 minutes to pack. My portrait flipped. The papers disowning me and my baby. Crowd gasped. Phones recorded. It was different, my mother screamed. You shamed us, pregnant at 17. I was your daughter. Owen edged toward the exit. Guards blocked him. Mr. Blake, Lance said into the mic stay. This involves you. I'm not, Owen stuttered. Not the father who ditched a pregnant teen? Or the Harrisons' paid puppet? You can't prove, my father shouted. Lance smiled, clicking a remote. Oh, I can. The ballroom's massive LED screen ignited like a bonfire of secrets, casting a harsh blue glow over the 500 guests. Emails scrolled in enormous font, each word a dagger exposing the ugly conspiracy my parents and Owen had woven. Lance's voice boomed through the microphone, steady and unyielding as he read aloud, 10% of assets recovered. He paused for effect, letting the phrase hang in the air like a noose. Play on missed father-son moments. She's always emotional. I could feel the shift in the room, a collective intake of breath. Whispers rippled through the crowd, eyes widening as the implications sank in. My mother, usually so composed in her vintage Chanel suit, trembled visibly. The fabric, once a symbol of her untouchable elegance, now seemed like a fragile shell cracking under the weight of exposure. Her hands clutched the table edge, knuckles white, as if the ground beneath her was crumbling. My father, the man who had always prided himself on his Harvard education and unshakable authority, fiddled uselessly with his lapel pin, a gleaming emblem of his alma mater. Couldn't save him now. No degree could rewrite the humiliation etching lines deeper into his face. And Owen? Poor, desperate Owen looked like he might actually vomit right there on his ill-fitting rented tuxedo shoes, his face paling to a ghostly shade as sweat beaded on his forehead. Tension was palpable, thick as fog rolling in from the river outside. Lance didn't miss a beat. "Let's talk about your signatures from 20 years ago," he said, his tone calm but cutting like a surgeon's scalpel. "The ones that severed all ties to Vivian and her children forever." The room froze as if time itself had paused. Guests leaned forward in their seats, champagne glasses forgotten, the clink of silverware silenced. Lance clicked the remote again, and the abandonment document exploded onto the screen. Every word was magnified, every clause a bombshell. The signatures, my parents' bold, deliberate scrawls, glared back at the audience like accusations from the past. "October 15th, 2004, Lance read, his voice echoing off the crystal chandeliers. "We, Robert and Margaret Harrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Vivian Harrison and any children born or unborn." The zoom in on their signatures was merciless. Bold strokes, undeniable loops. There they were, immortalized in ink that had sealed my fate 2 decades ago. Crowd murmured, a low hum of shock and judgment. I stood there, heart pounding, remembering the cold night that document was signed, the suitcase at my feet, the door slamming shut. "It's in perpetuity," Lance continued, driving the point home. "Forever. Irreversible. You didn't just disown your pregnant daughter, you legally erased every generation that would come from her." My mother's voice cracked through the silence, weak and defensive. "We didn't know," she stammered, her eyes darting around the room as if seeking an ally in the sea of disapproving faces. "Didn't know?" Lance countered smoothly, pulling up another document on the screen, a scan of my father's Harvard law degree, highlighted for emphasis. "Mr. Harrison, you have a law degree from one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. You knew exactly what you were signing." My father's mouth opened and closed, flapping like a fish pulled from water, gasping for air in a room that had none left for him. His face flushed red, then drained to ashen gray. The man who had built an empire on calculated decisions now looked utterly defeated, his Yale class ring twisting futilely on his finger. "But that's not all," Lance said, his voice rising just enough to recapture any wandering attention. "Let's discuss what happens when you abandon someone, then crawl back to claim their inheritance." Crowd leaned forward even more, chairs creaking softly. Even the waitstaff, usually invisible in their black uniforms, had stopped in their tracks, trays balanced but forgotten, eyes glued to the unfolding drama. The air hummed with anticipation, the scent of orchids and expensive perfumes mixing with the electric tension. "20 years ago, you threw Vivian away like yesterday's trash," Lance explained, his words painting the picture vividly. "Elena Rossi found her on that cold park bench, loved her like her own, raised her grandson as if he were her blood. And when Elena passed, she left very specific instructions in her will about blood relatives who abandoned their family." My father's composure shattered completely. "That money should be ours," he shouted, his voice echoing off the marble walls, raw with desperation. "We're the biological grandparents who signed away all rights," Lance interrupted, pointing firmly at the screen. "Look at it, Mr. Harrison. Look at your own signature. That's your handwriting declaring Seaguard doesn't exist to you legally or otherwise." Channel 7's camera crew was in full swing now, Jennifer Chen holding her microphone toward the stage, her expression a mix of professional detachment and barely concealed shock. The red light blinked steadily. Everything was broadcasting live, streaming to thousands beyond these walls, turning our private pain into public spectacle. "Every person in this room," Lance declared, sweeping his arm across the audience, "every camera, every phone, they're all bearing witness to the truth. You abandoned a terrified pregnant teenager. You signed away your own grandchild. And now, after all these years of silence, you want to profit from his hard-earned success." The disgust in the room was almost tangible, a wave of revulsion that made the air heavier. Guests who had once admired the Harrison name now turned their backs on table one, literally pivoting in their seats to avoid eye contact. Whispers turned to outright murmurs of condemnation, and I could see a few shaking their heads in disbelief. "Now," Lance said, shifting gears with practiced ease, "let's discuss Elena Rossi's will." The screen transitions smoothly to the official probate documents, gold seals glinting under the digital light, notarizations stamped like final judgments. Article 7, Section 4, Lance read clearly. Any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected Vivian Harrison or Sigard Harrison shall be permanently excluded from all inheritance, property, or financial benefit from this estate. She can't do that, my mother screamed, her voice piercing the hush like a shattered glass. She can and she did, Lance replied firmly. The estate is worth $15 million. The restaurants, the properties, the investments, all of it goes to Vivian and Sigard. You, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, receive absolutely nothing. The weight of those words hung heavy. But Lance wasn't done. He clicked again, revealing a video timestamp. But more importantly, he said, Elena left you a personal message. Elena's face filled the screen once more, this footage different, more intimate, more direct. She looked straight into the camera, as if staring right at my parents across time and space. Her voice, though weakened by cancer, rang out with unyielding strength. Robert and Margaret Harrison, she said, her tone laced with quiet fury. I know you're watching this, probably in a room full of people you're desperate to impress. Good. Let them all hear what I have to say. You are the worst kind of cowards. You threw away a treasure, a bright, scared young girl, because you feared the judgment of your precious society. I found that treasure on a cold bench in the park. I polished it with love and care. I helped it shine brighter than you could ever imagine. My mother collapsed back into her chair, her Chanel suit rumpling as she deflated, tears streaming down her face. Not the performative dabs from earlier, but real, ugly sobs that smeared her makeup. You had 10 minutes to pack your daughter's entire life into a suitcase, Elena continued, her eyes piercing. So I'm giving you the same courtesy. 10 minutes to leave this gala, leave this city, and leave Vivian and Sigard alone forever. Starting now. Lance glanced at his watch, the gesture dramatic under the spotlights. That's 8:47 p.m., he announced. At 8:57, if you're still here, I file the restraining orders, the criminal harassment charges, everything. The ballroom fell into a profound silence, broken only by the steady ticking of the massive antique clock on the wall. Each second amplified the doom, echoing like a heartbeat racing toward the end. 9 minutes, Lance said, his voice a countdown to their ruin. My parents exchanged panicked glances, first at each other, then at the exits flanked by security, and finally at the hundreds of phones held aloft, recording every moment of their humiliation. Faces they had once courted for business deals now captured their downfall in high definition. Lance wasn't finished. He turned his attention to Owen, who was trying to shrink into his rented tux, as if the fabric could swallow him whole. Mr. Blake, Lance said, his tone shifting to one of cool dissection. Let's discuss your consulting agreement. The emails reappeared on the screen, scrolling slowly for maximum impact. Lance read them deliberately, letting each word land like a punch. Vivian's emotional. Push the right buttons. $500,000 upfront seems reasonable for my involvement. That's taken out of context, Owen stammered, his voice cracking, sweat now pouring down his face as he glanced desperately for an escape. Is it? Lance asked rhetorically, clicking through the entire chain. Let's see the full context then. You approached the Harrisons. You offered to manipulate the mother of your own child for money. You referred to your son as an asset to be recovered. Crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of gasps and low boos. Sigard stepped forward to the microphone, his surgeon's poise unbroken. Mr. Blake, he said, his voice clear and unwavering. I want you to know something. I've known who you were since I was 15. I looked you up on my own. I found your Stanford graduation photos, your wedding announcement, the birth announcements for your other children, the ones you didn't abandon, the ones you raised while my mother fought alone. Owen's face went bone white, his eyes wide with horror as the truth hit him. I watched you build your perfect life, Sigard continued, while my mother rebuilt hers from nothing. I saw your startup announcements in tech magazines, your mentions in Forbes, your flawless family Christmas cards on social media. And I felt absolutely nothing. You know why? 'Cause Lance Mitchell taught me how to play catch in the backyard. Lance showed up for every surgery observation, every milestone. Lance is my father in every way that truly matters. But I'm your biological, Owen began, his voice a weak protest. You're a sperm donor, Seagard cut in, his words sharp as his scalpel. A bankrupt, desperate one who's now trying to sell access to the son you never wanted. The IRS already knows about your bankruptcy fraud, by the way. We forwarded them your emails about hiding assets. Someone in the crowd let out a sharp laugh, then another joined, and soon the room was filled with derisive chuckles. Owen, once a rising star in tech circles, was now surrounded by the sound of mockery from people who had likely once respected, or at least envied, the Blake name. 8 minutes remaining, Lance announced, his voice cutting through the laughter like a gavel. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Blake, I suggest you leave now. My father stood slowly, trying to muster whatever scraps of dignity he had left amid the disaster. This isn't over, he declared, his voice trembling with forced authority. We'll sue. We'll fight this. But even as he spoke, the ballroom doors swung open with perfect timing. A process server strode in, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers, their badges gleaming under the chandeliers. Robert Harrison, Margaret Harrison, Owen Blake, the server called out, his voice formal and unyielding as he held up thick packets of official documents. You're being served with emergency restraining orders. He handed each of them a packet right there on the spot in front of 500 watching eyes. The rustle of paper was the only sound for a moment. These are temporary orders, effective immediately, the server explained. You are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Vivian Mitchell, Seagard Harrison, or Lance Mitchell. No contact through any medium, no calls, texts, emails, or third-party messages. The hearing for permanent orders is in 2 weeks. My mother turned to me, her eyes blazing with a mix of rage and defeat. You planned this, she hissed, her voice low but venomous. No, I said, standing tall, my voice carrying across the room without need for a microphone. You planned this 20 years ago when you signed those papers. I'm just finishing what you started. The officer stepped forward, his presence commanding. Folks, you need to leave the premises now, he said firmly, or you're in violation of the order right here. This is assault, my father shouted, his face contorted in fury, veins bulging on his neck. This is consequence, the officer replied calmly, unfazed. Something I understand you're not familiar with. You have 5 minutes before we arrest you for violation. My mother grabbed her Hermes bag like it was a lifeline, clutching it to her chest as if it could shield her from the storm. You'll regret this, Vivian, she spat, her words dripping with bitterness. The only thing I regret, I said, my voice ringing clear and strong for everyone to hear, is spending 17 years of my life thinking I needed your love. They shuffled toward the exit, a defeated trio, my parents leading, Owen trailing like a shadow. The door, my father turned one last time, his eyes locking on Seagard. That boy is our blood, he said, his voice a desperate growl. Blood, Seagard called out from the podium, his tone laced with righteous anger. You bled my mother dry and left her for dead on that park bench. Elena gave her a transfusion of real love, the kind that heals and builds. That's the only blood that matters here. The doors closed behind them with a final resounding thud. For a heartbeat, the room was still, and then it erupted in applause. Claps thundered from every corner, guests rising to their feet, the sound washing over us like a wave of vindication. Whistles and cheers mixed in, the energy electric, as if the collective weight of injustice had been lifted. The applause gradually died down, fading into a respectful hush as Seagard returned to the podium, this time with me standing proudly beside him. He adjusted the microphone slightly, his scrubs a stark contrast to the formal attire around us. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice warm and steady, let me tell you what we're really here to celebrate tonight. The screen behind us shifted once more, this time to a beautiful mock-up of a modern building, its design welcoming and hopeful, the Elena Rossi Center for Young Mothers. Architectural lines curved gently, symbolizing embrace, with gardens and play areas visible in the rendering. $5 million in initial funding, Seagard announced, his pride evident. 10 full medical school scholarships for children of teen mothers. Housing for 20 families at a time, on-site childcare during classes, job training programs. Everything my mother needed 20 years ago and found in one extraordinary woman named Elena Rossi. I took the microphone from him, my hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through me. The spotlight felt warm on my skin, empowering rather than exposing. Every young mother who walks through our doors will get what I got from Elena, I said, my voice carrying the weight of my journey. Not judgment from those who should protect her, but genuine support to build her future. Not shame for a moment of vulnerability, but dignity to stand tall. Not abandonment when she's at her lowest, but a family that chooses her, lifts her, and believes in her. The words flowed from me, each one a tribute to the woman who had saved me. The first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Seagard added, scanning the crowd. Maria Santos, 17 years old, graduating as valedictorian while raising her daughter single-handedly. Maria, would you please stand? A young woman rose from a table near the back, her simple dress contrasting the opulence around her. She held her baby close, tears streaming down her cheeks as she stood. The ovation was thunderous, louder even than before, a roar of encouragement that shook the chandeliers. Guests clapped vigorously, some wiping their own eyes, moved by the raw hope in the moment. Maria will attend Harvard Pre-Med this fall, I said, smiling through my own emotion, on a full ride with on-site childcare provided. Because that's exactly what Elena would have done. She saw potential where others saw problems. Lance joined us on stage then, his tall frame steady as always, his kind eyes meeting mine with quiet support. We're also announcing, he said, taking a turn at the mic, that the Harrison Industries Board has voted to redirect their annual charitable giving, the $12 million they've donated to this hospital over the years. It's now going straight to the Elena Foundation, and it's being matched by an anonymous donor. I knew that anonymous donor intimately. It wasn't some faceless benefactor. It was the combined savings of every family Elena had quietly helped over the years, dozens of lives touched, now paying it forward in a beautiful cycle of gratitude. In 1 year, Seagard concluded, his voice filled with vision, we'll have helped 50 young mothers rebuild their lives. In 10 years, 500. And in 20 years, when some other scared 17-year-old finds herself pregnant and alone, she won't have to sleep in a park like my mother did. She'll call us, and we'll be there. The standing ovation that followed lasted a full 5 minutes, waves of applause crashing over us. Cheers echoed, flashes from phones lit the room like stars. But amid the noise, the sweetest sound was the silence from Table 1, now empty forever, a void where my past had finally been exorcised. 3 weeks later, the dust had settled, but the ripples continued. Lance showed me the business news on his tablet over morning coffee, his expression a mix of satisfaction and finality. Harrison Industries stock dropped 30% overnight, he said, scrolling through the headlines. The board called an emergency meeting. Your father was voted out as CEO effective immediately. The scandal had exploded beyond Springfield, a wildfire fueled by social media and 24-hour news cycles. Family Values hypocrites screamed a front-page article in the Wall Street Journal, dissecting the Harrisons' public facade versus their private cruelties. The 10-minute parents became a viral hashtag, trending for days with memes, think pieces, and survivor stories from others who had endured similar rejections. Someone, perhaps a sympathetic guest or staff member, had leaked the security footage of their humiliating exit from the gala. Racked up 12 million views in under a week, clips shared and reshared, each one chipping away at their legacy. They're selling the house, Lance continued, pulling up a real estate listing on his screen. The West Side mansion, with its imported marble and chandelier that had once loomed over my eviction, was now photographed in harsh daylight, listed far below market value. They need the cash for legal fees, mounting debts from the fallout. Their high-powered lawyer had tried to contest the restraining orders in court, mounting a frantic defense. But the judge, after reviewing the mountain of evidence, emails, documents, Elena's video, not only upheld them but made them permanent, citing clear patterns of harassment and manipulation. "What about Owen?" I asked, sipping my coffee, curious but detached. "Worse off," Lance replied with a slight shake of his head. His ex-wife's lawyer subpoenaed our emails as part of their divorce proceedings. Turns out, hiding assets from bankruptcy court while owing $200,000 in back child support is a federal crime. He's facing up to 3 years in prison, plus fines he can't afford. I searched my heart for some reaction, satisfaction at justice served, pity for a man brought low, but there was nothing. Just a quiet void where the pain used to be. "They've moved to Arizona," Lance added, showing a map pin on Scottsdale. "Your mother's sister took them in. They're living in her guest house now." From a sprawling 7-bedroom mansion overlooking the city to a modest guest house in the desert, from society galas where they were toasted as pillars of the community to quiet exile among cacti and heat waves. The fall was complete, poetic in its irony. And the best part? Lance smiled, a rare glint of mischief in his eyes. "Remember their church? The one where your father served as an elder for decades? They were politely asked to find a new place of worship. Apparently, abandoning a pregnant teenager doesn't align with their core values. Every institution they had valued more than me, their company, their social circle, their church, had turned its back on them, mirroring the rejection they had inflicted on me all those years ago. Are you okay?" Lance asked softly, reaching across the table to take my hand. I squeezed his back, feeling the warmth of true partnership. "I'm free," I said, the words tasting like fresh air after a storm. "For the first time in 20 years, I'm completely, utterly free." That night at dinner, our weekly ritual unbroken, Seagard casually mentioned. "The foundation received a donation today. Anonymous. $50,000. We exchanged knowing glances around the table, the unspoken truth hanging in the air. We all knew who it wasn't from, no last-ditch attempt at redemption from the Harrisons or Owen. 6 months later, we gathered again for our cherished family dinner, the tradition Elena had started and we had vowed never to stop. The aroma of roasting meat filled the air, herbs and garlic mingling in a comforting embrace. Seagard, ever the prodigy, carved the roast with precision, using the exact technique Elena had taught him when he was just 12. Patient slices, no waste, every motion deliberate. "So, I saved 3 lives this week," he said casually, as if discussing the weather outside, passing plates around the table. "Show off," Lance teased with a grin, pouring rich red wine from Elena's carefully curated collection, the bottles she had saved for moments just like this. "The youngest was only 4 months old," Seagard continued, his eyes lighting up with that quiet passion he reserved for his work. "Her mother was 17, just like you were, Mom. She reminded me so much of someone." He looked at me then, his gaze full of the wonder that had survived despite everything we'd been through. I told her about the foundation. She broke down crying, said she'd been sleeping in her car for a week, terrified and alone. "Not anymore," I said firmly, my heart swelling with purpose. "She moves into the center tomorrow. We'll give her what Elena gave me, a chance to breathe, to build, to thrive. This was our family in its purest form. No DNA tests required, no blood certificates to prove worth, just consistent presence, unwavering choice, and the kind of love that showed up day after day." Elena's portrait hung prominently where the TV used to be, her smiling face watching over us. We'd chosen to look at her instead of any screen, a daily reminder of grace. Fresh orchids sat beneath it, replaced weekly. Her favorite flower, their delicate petals a symbol of the beauty she brought into our lives. "I'm getting married next month," I announced suddenly, the words bubbling out with a joy I couldn't contain. Lance nearly dropped his wine glass, his eyes widening in surprise. "You're supposed to let me propose first," he said, half laughing, half flustered. "Elena always said I should speak up for what I want," I replied, pulling out the simple yet elegant ring I'd bought him, a band that matched the strength and steadiness he brought to my life. So, Lance Mitchell, will you make this official? Will you marry me? Seagard burst into laughter, real, belly-deep laughter, the kind he had as a child before the world grew complicated. Mom, you just proposed at dinner over pot roast? That's peak you. Elena would approve, Lance said, his voice thick with emotion as he slid the ring onto his finger, fitting perfectly. Yes, absolutely yes. We toasted with Elena's Waterford crystal, the glasses she had reserved for true celebrations, their chime ringing like a blessing. In the soft candlelight, shadows dancing on the walls, I could almost see her smiling down at us, her presence as real as ever. This was family. Not perfect by society's standards, not traditional in its makeup, but real in every sense, chosen through trials, permanent in its bonds. And somewhere in the dry heat of Arizona, in a cramped guest house far from their former glory, two strangers I once called parents were finally learning the lesson I'd known for 20 years. Some choices can't be undone, no matter how much you regret them. But better choices? Those can be made every single day, building a life worth living. Thank you for staying with my story through every twist and revelation. If you've ever had to choose between toxic blood ties and the happiness you deserve, remember this: real family shows up when the world walks away, offering hands to hold instead of backs to turn. Like and subscribe if this tale of delayed justice, even after 20 long years, resonates with you, reminding you that truth has a way of prevailing. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that they deserve unconditional love, no strings attached. Comment family below if you believe in chosen families over forced ones, the kind built on love, not obligation. And if you're that scared 17-year-old somewhere right now, huddled in your car or on a friend's couch, feeling like the world has ended, know this: you're not alone. There's help waiting, there's hope on the horizon, and there's a future brighter than you can imagine.